Hi everyone, it's me, Mrs. Lauterbach, and I'm going to walk you through your last tsunami writing proposal for Sri Lanka. So what we're going to do in this final activity of your internship is to write a proposal from the World Ocean Association to convince the people of Sri Lanka to pick your tsunami alert design, okay? So this is going to be based on your research data you've collected using the tsunami alert and the information you filled out in your interactive notebook. So ideally, the two things you should have open are your interactive plate motion notebook and your writing to Sri Lanka here. So we're going to start with making sure we have our purpose of the proposal. We're going to list the criteria that the World Ocean Administration has lined out for us in creating our warning system. Describe the optimal design, compare your optimal design to the project goals, and explain any trade-offs you had to make for the design process. We're also going to add a screenshot of your optimal design in the Google Doc. And then lastly, we'll go through and we'll highlight the vocabulary in our paragraph. So we have a screenshot of your optimal design. If we go to our Google Slides, let me actually maybe move my little bubble over here. The last couple of slides are the tsunami alert designs, okay? And I asked you to pick 3 of your best designs. One of these 3 designs should be considered your optimal design in meeting the designated goals outlined by the World Ocean Association, okay? So when I have my best design, I'm just gonna copy and paste that screenshot into my Google Doc. The important thing is that when I'm writing my paragraph, I'm basing it off of the information on that screenshot, okay? So all of my paragraph writing should be based on the information given, all right? This serves as a valuable tool in creating a visual for the people who are reading the proposal and understanding where you're placing the sensors and the locations you're talking about. It also is a quick reference guide to the test parameters that you've taken. All right, so before we get to the paragraph portion, we're gonna work on the proposal, okay? So the first one is to describe the purpose of the proposal. So we were asked as interns to create a better warning system for the people of Sri Lanka to notify them of an incoming tsunami so that they can evacuate in a timely manner. So here we're going to add that we created a project for the World Ocean Association to design a better warning system for the people of Sri Lanka in the event of a tsunami. What I love about this statement is by adding the name of the company you're working for, the organization you're working for, it adds the credibility of your writing to your, like, why you should be writing this in your credentials. We're adding the better warning system because they do have a warning system. We're just going to try to improve it. And then we also want to incorporate the location of the nation that's benefiting from this. In that case, it's Sri Lanka. The last thing is the geologic hazard we're working on. So plate motion creates a lot of geologic hazards, earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis. We're going to be focusing on the tsunami here. Next is listing the project criteria. So these are the things that we're focusing on. So the focus of this project was to receive all necessary warnings, maximize average warning time, minimize false alarms, and keep costs low. All right. Then we're going to discuss the importance of each of those criteria. So the first one I'm going to help you with because We talked about it briefly in class, but we never did anything writing-wise with it. So it's describing the importance of all warnings being received. So it is important to have all necessary warnings received in order to notify the island in time to evacuate, because if this does not happen, there is a greater risk of losing people's lives. Okay. That's overall big importance. Okay. The other three, okay, I have a hint for you. Okay, you want to go to slide 30, your project summary. You should have already written these 3 sentences in your interactive notebook. When you go to your interactive notebook on slide 30 here, there was a link to take you to an article about the criteria for this project, and then you had to fill out the information on the slides here, answer those questions. What was the engineering problem? Describe the first criteria, why it's important. Describe the second criterion, what's important. Describe the third criterion, what's important. And based on your research, which one do you think is the most important overall and why? So whatever information you have here, you just copy and paste it into your Google Doc, okay? And so that's where I keep telling kids, make sure you're filling in your interactive notebook. It's going to make your life easier. You're working smarter instead of harder. So you get to copy and paste this information into your Google Doc here. All right. So again, that's slide 30, the information in the project summary. Now, this slide, this next section here, it's very important that you are writing this information based on the screenshot of your optimal design. Whatever optimal design you have placed into your Google Doc, that is the data that should be written about. I can't tell you how many times I have kids who are writing information here, or rather they're sharing information from another source, another partner, someone they've got their results from and try to copy and paste on. And then I'm reading their information and it says that they have like 90 minutes average warning time. But when I go to their screenshot, it says a completely different number. Okay, so you want to make sure that your numbers match. All right, you want to have your data match. So we're going to basically be writing the facts of our optimal design. So the first one is just kind of talking about all warnings received. So it's as simple as saying, I got and then I'm putting quotation marks, yes, on the all necessary warnings received. And this was kind of the first little checkpoint I wanted you to work on when it came to the tsunami alert simulation. I do want you to specify that it is a computer simulation. We're not just randomly throwing sensors into the Indian Ocean to see the outcome that we get. I also want you to signify that the simulation tool was placed at a setting placed at random. So it was placed at a random setting, okay? The reason why we want to stress the random setting is to incorporate that even though it is a computer simulation, we tried to make this as real world as possible. And by placing it at a random simulation where the earthquakes went off randomly, we couldn't predict where it was happening, was true to real life. We don't know when an earthquake will take place. We don't know where it'll take place or if it'll be strong enough to cause a tsunami. So that's kind of why we're specifying the yes, and that is it is a computer simulation and it is placed at random. Okay. The other one is just notifying the data again, the average warning time to evacuate is minutes. Okay, so here you have to type in your data. So I would scroll up, and based on my data here, I would say 66.75 minutes. Okay, yours might be a little different. You're going to do the same thing for your false alarms, the number of false alarms in my system is, and then I want you to actually type out the number. If it's anything that's less than 10, you should type out the number. So for me, I would go up to my data, I'd look at it, and I see I have 2 false alarms. So I would spell out 2, T-W-O, 2. Okay, that's what I'm looking at, right? And then I'll do the same for the 50-year costs. 50-year total is, your total cost is, and then go ahead and you can type out the numbers here, okay? Mine would be, going up to the top, mine would be $84,918,000. Okay, that's what I would type out. Keep in mind, I'm looking to make sure that all of these numbers are the same as whatever data you have copied into your Google Doc. So make sure that everything checks out. Okay, next is talking about the reasoning behind the location of your sensors. I understand that some of you probably threw those sensors in randomly. You know, you just kind of tossed them in there and hope for the best. You opened up the sensor simulation and you just dropped them in randomly. Ideally, that's not what we want to be doing. We want it to be focused on the material as a whole. Okay, so in order to explain your sensor locations, I would encourage you to go to slide 26 and look at your map. So slide 26 is when we were doing the mapping of the Indian Ocean region. And you should have come to the realization that even though the Indian Ocean region has all 3 plate boundaries, the convergent boundary, the transform boundaries, and the divergent, only the convergent boundaries are the locations where we see earthquakes that are strong enough to create a tsunami, specifically the ocean-wide tsunamis. So you should have been placing your sensors along a convergent boundary near the ocean-wide tsunamis that have a magnitude of 8 or higher. So that's what we're looking for in a sentence here, is that you we placed the sensors along convergent boundaries that are likely to have an earthquake with a magnitude of 8.0 or higher. Okay. You know, you're signifying the specifics behind that. Okay. Then we're going to be comparing your optimal design to the design goals. The hint here is slide 43. We were looking at our design and we're seeing which of the 4 major features did we get close to. So based on my specific data, I had all warnings received and I had 66 minutes of average warning time. So I met the top 2 goals. I did not get false alarms. I ended up having 2, so I did not place a check mark there. I also was double the budget, so I did not place a check mark there as well. So on the sentence of my Google Doc, I want to write how I met 2 of the 4 goals, which were all necessary warnings received and a warning time of 66 minutes. So I want to be specific in that, okay? So our design, and now I'm going to say optimal design, met 2 project goals, which consisted of all necessary warnings received and 66.75 minutes of warning time. Notice how I was very specific in the warning time, okay? That adds extra emphasis to your evidence on you meeting the goal. Now, let's say, you didn't meet the warning time. You want it to be based off of your data. So maybe yours wasn't warning time. Maybe it was false alarms, at which point you would just change the statement to be 0 false alarms or under $40 million, and you would specify the exact amount. So you want this statement to be specific to your actual goals that you met, and then you want to list them out. It kind of adds emphasis to why your design is the best. The next one is explaining trade-offs that were made during the design process. So we're looking at slides 44, which if you filled out slide 44, you have the extra luxury of copying and pasting the criteria you prioritized and why. So you get to copy and paste that statement. And then the trade-off that you made here, you get to copy and paste the statement. Okay, so this is why, I stress so much, do your work in your Google Slides. It makes it easier. So you're talking about what you may have had to relinquish a goal in order to specify one of your warning times. So again, it's a simple statement that we prioritized the criteria and then list it out. List out the criteria and why. And then you want to talk about your trade-offs. We did have to accept some trade-offs in our optimal design and then list them out. So an example of a design, maybe in order to get less false alarms, you had to use the deep water sensors, which were very expensive. That is a trade-off. In order to reduce our false alarms, we use deep water sensors. We did have to accept some of the trade-offs in our ultimate design of increasing the cost in order to make our system more accurate. So that's an example of something to look for. Or maybe it's in order to prioritize maximum warning time because we want people to get to safety. We had to accept some trade-offs in our optimal design of adding more sensors and increasing the cost of our 50-year plan. That's kind of what we're looking at here in the sense. And then our very last sentence is pretty much like your concluding statement about why your optimal design should be chosen. Okay, so it's our warning system should be selected because, and this is where you want to describe your best features and only your best features, okay, of your little system here, in order to help Sri Lanka during a tsunami warning. Okay, so all right. The best features, because again, you want to convince someone to pick your design, and anytime you're using persuasive language, you want to do the best material there. Okay, so once you have this done, and again, your best features and your trade-offs, again, they should all be based on your data. But once you have your writing frame done, you copy and paste all of these sentences into your paragraph here. And then when you finish copy and pasting the sentences in the box below, make sure you proofread, make sure it flows well. You double check the spelling before you click turn it in. Okay. I just want to make sure that, right before the end of the grade quarter, you're giving me your best work and it's doing the double checking, which also means when I'm speaking of double checking, going back and highlighting the vocabulary. I have so many kids who miss out on 2 points because they don't highlight the vocab in their paragraph. So make sure you do that as well. Okay. I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions or concerns relating to the writing or the specifics behind it, please reach out and let me know via email or come in during the advisory time and I'll help you out. So bye.